Hi everyone and welcome to episode 44 of the ITSM crowd. We did an episode number 42 which was about cloud for service managers, and we got a fantastic response to that one. Our guest was Steve Chambers and we were talking about how service management has changed in the world of cloud. One of the things we were discussing was whether there's any training courses available for cloud and service management, and I showed my ignorance on that episode. I wasn't aware what was available. And then afterwards, I was contacted by Mark from the Cloud Credential Council, who was able to share with me a little bit more information. So because it was such a popular topic and because there's clearly still a lot more to learn, we've invited Mark onto this episode and he's going to share a little bit more about what he does. So my name's Claire Agutter. I'm going to be your host for today's session. And Mark, if I can just ask you to introduce yourselves.
Hi, Claire. Thanks for that. Fantastic to be here on episode 44. I'm sure you say, where does time go?
I know.
Yeah. So, Mark O'Loughlin. I'm the managing director of the Cloud Credential Council. The CCC has been around since around 2011. And in 2014, we produced a wider portfolio regarding cloud, looking at service management, security, developer, and a few other areas as well. I guess what we envisaged, and is still a core aspect of the CCC, is vendor neutral training, but more so education. So a lot of people say, well, it's training. We like to look at it that we try and encode in education into the CCC. We'll cover some of that later on as we get into the session. My own background is I'm about 20 years now, where does time go, in the service management field. I think of ITSM going back to 2001.
Wow.
Back in V2 days, foundation and problem and change management. So proud to have those. And I'm about 10 years in the cloud space. So I got introduced in about 2008, working in a company that we didn't have funding for infrastructure. We came across this thing called AWS, that for use of a credit card and a few $1,000s, we could build large infrastructure. At the time, it was in its infancy, but it really enthralled me. So what is this? What could it do, and what's the potential? And then in 2011, I did a lot of research for a number of companies at the time who were wanting to understand how to commercialize cloud. So in order to do that, we've got to understand what is cloud. I'm going to come back on that question in a couple of minutes as well throughout this session. It's a fantastic question, and it really, I guess, helps us understand where we are today, especially for the ITSM community. A few questions that I'll share as well that will hopefully get people thinking as to what are some of the things they need to think about in this space. So that's what I'm at the moment. The CCC, as I said, big, I guess, proposition from ourselves is we're vendor neutral. So we create vendor neutral, as I say, education. There are lots of vendors selling lots of clouds. They all have education in their space, which is fantastic. People and organizations do need that level of training, but we like to think as well that they need something that rounds it all together. We're like the glue, I think, that pulls together the domain itself. What is the domain of cloud? We look at big data, IoT, security, looking at blockchain and things like this as well. So I'll leave it there for now for the background at the moment, but we'll thread in a bit more detail as we go through this morning's session.
Sounds good. So I think the big question that jumped out at me there, and I always do like to start these things with definitions, was, what is cloud? Because on the last Cloud ITSM crowd that we did, we got a pretty good introduction to hybrid, public, on premises, but it'd be good to get your perspective on this as well.
So typically, and we've baked this in, the course that addresses a lot of the answers to that question is Professional Cloud Service Manager, or PCSM, from the CCC. So that's what we have. Details are available on the website there, and I'll cover some of the content here, but in a conversation way rather than just go through it. One of the things we open with that course is that question. 3 words, 3 simple words. What is cloud? It used to be 4. But we've condensed it to 3 now. What is cloud computing? But the computing bit's falling off now. Cloud is becoming ubiquitous now just for it. So, because I want to give you the context behind the question to try and give you the context of the answer, right? And it's not a pure definition answer, and there's a reason for that. We do have a definition, but so typically in a PCSM, we could have 10, 14 people in a room. And we'll ask them this question. I ask this question to CIO briefings, to management, anybody at conferences, whoever. And the results are astounding, but they're the same. So we have 10 people in a room. We put on 3 words, what is cloud? And you go around the room and you're going to get 10 different answers to start with. And people scratching their heads and coming up with things. And like some of the words you've said, public, private, hybrid, infrastructure, on-demand, outsourcing, all these words come out. Fantastic. Obviously, there's no wrong answer to this question. So we go around and then we go, okay, that's good. Then you go in reverse again. So you then try and ask the same people, what's their best definition of cloud? And this is where some people try to answer something else. They give a shorter version of what they've just said, or they just go, don't know, can't answer. Right? Every time, I've done this in hundreds of different scenarios, and every time it's the same. So we get back to the end, and then I ask the audience, whoever's there, what's the problem? They then understand the problem. They don't know what cloud is. Therefore, and cloud being the domain of cloud, not the technology. We haven't asked them anything about technology here. Just ask them, what's a simple definition of cloud? They can't give it. But they've all given different definitions. One of the key problems we have in our industry here in the ITSM segment, now it's wider than that, but let's just keep it to our segment for the moment, is we don't know the answer to this question. And what's worse is we don't know that we don't know. We don't know. We've been asking this at CCC for over 4 years since we brought out PCSM. I've been at conferences around the world. I've been in exec meetings, and some people, some of the initially anyway was, Mark, we don't care about this. It's now dawning on people, we really got to care about this because of everything that's happening now with the DevOps and the Agile and all this. All of that's been enabled by cloud technology and the models behind cloud. But we don't understand the fundamentals of the things that enable DevOps to happen and Agile and all this other stuff. We're missing a big part of our understanding and our ability to deal with this, what we call this new world of IT, this fourth industrial revolution. Whenever we're in this digital age, all these nice words that we throw in. And with 3 words is we're proving that to people. So when we do that, say in PCSM or exec briefings or wherever it is, people immediately understand the gap. And then they listen. Especially in the training room, that's how we get attention for a 3-day course. and they wake up and they go, wow. And we say, okay, by the end of either this course or briefing or whatever we're doing, we'll give you, I'm going to say the answer, because you're going to ask me, you're still looking for what's the answer, Mark, aren't you? Right? And I'm not sure I'll give it to you on this call. The reason being is that you have to look at the context of what is behind cloud. Not just a definition. I could give you a definition right now, Claire, and it's a so what. Because you've got to understand the context behind the definition and then how it changes and impacts on what we've done to date in IT, the big change. You've got to put all of that into context to be educated to then make change. So some of the context behind that is, as Steve had covered off, 5 characteristics of cloud. 4 deployment models, 3 service models. Characteristics being the on-demand self-service, resource pooling, measured service, broad network access, and this rapid elasticity. So first of all, there's lots of phrases out there. Go, what are all of those? We won't cover all of those, but that's the characteristics of cloud. If it has those, it can be a cloud. If it doesn't, it's not a cloud. It's probably traditional IT, probably some legacy. But you have to understand most of what you'll get from a sales perspective is most organizations will tell you the benefits of those characteristics. What you need to understand are the benefits, the advantages, but the disadvantages. as well in context. So rapid elasticity means, we can increase our use of cloud using on demand straight away. That's fantastic, advantageous, which enables DevOps and agility and all this other stuff. But there's one critical thing behind that, which it does, is increase cost. So you now have to think about cost and controlling costs as well. And if you don't explain to your business that, yes, we can increase and we have the agility, but you're going to pay for that. Oh, no, that'll come out of the IT budget. Oh, well, we're not paying. You start getting into the context behind it now. The deployment models are fantastic. Public, private, hybrid, community. Okay, public, easy. Public email, Gmail. But you've got to understand, when we look at this from, I guess, strategy point of view, is public email the right thing to do from a cost perspective? Absolutely. Recently, an email provider, I think it was Gmail, it'll affect a lot of them, in the terms and conditions states that third-party providers can actually read your email.
I did see that, yeah.
It's in the contract. One of the things, another thing I ask on PCSM is, how many people have read a cloud contract? Barely a hand goes up. Does everybody here use a public email system? Yes. I'd be shocked. I'd be afraid, because now there's risk introduced by that. And simple things, but they're big, big things. So large organizations have been sold on the cases of reducing costs by moving to public email. That's fantastic, and it suits a lot of organizations. But you have to have a policy or a strategy around about these parts in the contract. So from an ITSM perspective as well, is to understand this on behalf of the business and be able to take back and let the business make the decision. Are you accepting that risk or not? Because a lot of businesses don't know that they have accepted that risk. Things like that, And then private cloud, I could spend a half an hour on that, as to, most people have a misunderstanding as to what private cloud is. They think it's the IT in their data center that's private and all this. But a key measure is, if it doesn't have the 5 characteristics that we spoke about, it's not a cloud.
Okay.
Traditional IT, things like that. So it's putting the context in, and then taking that context into strategy, into governance, into different things. So that's just sort of background. So you're still wondering, what is cloud? As I said, what I'd like to kind of impress there on yourself, or on the viewers here, is that a single definition, you could look up cloud definition from NIST, who's defined what cloud is, an American organization. And it's a big, long-winded thing, and we use that as well. But our purpose isn't to give that to you and say, remember that for an exam. It's understand the context of cloud and what that means and how to apply it. So, but that takes about 3 days. In PCSM, by the time you get to day 3, you have the context. And I'll tell you what happens on day 3. We go back and we ask the question again, what is cloud? Go around to 10 people or 14 people or whoever's in the room, and they start answering it with context. The definition, but with context.
Yeah.
Everybody all the same. Now, same language. But it's not a definition they're giving, because when you explore it, what does that mean? What does that mean? They can give the context. How does that affect your organization? Well, I can think about it now. We're not saying your organization will change, but at least I can take back the learning and try and influence that. And that's one of the things I think should change for the ITSM community, is to bring back that level of confidence and understanding to the business. Because the business don't know. All they know is what they're being sold, the benefits of cloud, which is fantastic. The cloud and the benefits are really, really good. But you've got to, again, how does this apply to our organization, who we are, what we do, and how we move forward on that. So at the basics, you've got the 5 characteristics, 4 deployment models, and the 3 service models: infrastructure, platform, and service, software as a service, which people are very familiar with. But also, if you're an internal IT department and you're providing a SaaS, software as a service, you don't own that, perhaps, unless you built it. Most IT departments don't. They're getting it from some other provider. So now they become what's called an intermediary provider, providing something that they have very little control over. So when the business want extra features, well, we can't give you that. Or when they want a certain criteria, we're giving you what we get. But it's at a price point, and it's got benefits and all that other stuff. And they have to get into the mindset that they're not building a lot of this IT anymore, but they're managing it. They need to understand the contracts and the differences in SLAs and all these other things. So maybe that's a bit of the context behind the question. As I said, we could immerse you in 3 days to get to the answer.
Yeah.
As I said, I like to tackle it that way, because if we just give a pure definition, people take the definition and move on.
Yeah, and I think in a way, because like you, I'm an ITIL V2 person, and I remember back in the day, we always used to be able to say, oh, we're service management, we're technology agnostic. We don't care what it runs on or where the server lives, as long as the processes get followed.
Yep.
But now I think you can't take that position anymore within the service management world. But what's interesting there to me in what you're saying is, just like some organizations pick up the ITIL books and think, if I do X, Y, Z, then that's all I need to do because I've understood the basic definition. They're doing the same thing now with the technology.
They are, yes, and we've seen that over the years. The biggest thing was, let's go into cloud, and email was an easy one. Without understanding the contracts they were signing, the type, cloud is a different service, so you don't get priority 1, priority 2 fixed times. You get availability, because it's the key is you're getting a service. You think infrastructure as a service is at the end, platform as a service, and software as a service. You're getting a service which generally has availability attached to it, and all little nuances in the contract. You've got to understand all of that and present that back. And then with interfacing, how do clouds interface with your traditional IT and what you have? And before you know it, you could have 10 different cloud providers giving you infrastructure, platform, and software, and none of it works with each other. And that kind of thing. So yeah, it's a lot of companies have led with the technology first, and look, the way it's been sold, cloud, save money, new thing, off you go. And we're in catch-up mode now. And I think the industry, especially for ourselves, our segment, ITSM, is now recognizing organizations are having problems with their adoption. And I hope that we're recognizing we can step in there.
Yes.
And be that agnostic partner, player, whatever it is, to help glue all of this together and run this, to help understand the contracts. You're designing a lot of architecture based on cloud contracts. How they connect, APIs will generally connect in, or there's some third party will connect them in. But you have to look at the contract and what you're buying as well, more so than before. Especially around redundancy and availability. You can buy availability, and the cloud provider can shut down the entire area that you're in for a day, and still no penalty to them. If that's your email or if that's your storage, you're down for a day. How many businesses can be down for a day? The reputational damage alone could cripple you there.
We had just a story from ITSM Zone. We needed a new help desk system, so we found something that was software as a service. It was absolutely perfect for what we needed. It had all the functionality we needed. So we purchased it. It was a monthly payment, not a huge amount of money. Set it up, configured it, put our data into it, trained our help desk, and it must have been live for about 3 weeks before we got an email from the company saying, we're not offering this anymore, we're pulling this product.
Yeah. And then what do you do? That's a big consideration. We in PCSM, what we do is we look at from a strategy point of view. We actually use a real strategy document that we found. It's 40 pages, very digestible, puts the context of what we discussed into strategy and those types of risks. I think it was HP Helion was a public cloud. Fantastic. Yeah. And HP, good reputation, lots of money in the bank. They've been in IT, trusted partner for many, countless organizations. Created a public cloud because in the early days they thought we have to compete. Found out that the cost of public cloud is so astronomical that they had to close. They gave, now in fairness, they're one of the providers that gave notice, like a 60-day notice. We're closed, or maybe it was I think it was a 6-month notice. So they were very fair about it. Say, we have to close, you have to move on. We're giving you a notice period. Other cloud organizations have gone out of business straight away, or
Yep.
like giving you short notice. There's a few case studies we use. They're horror stories in cloud, but it's to prove a point. It's not to say cloud is bad. It's just
Mhm.
that even for all the due diligence that you can do, there can be little hiccups along the way. And especially if you're a cloud provider, because your business is probably using somebody else's cloud to deliver a service to your customer.
Yep.
Like Amazon is used or Azure is used quite a lot by intermediaries. They don't have to buy storage, they put
Mhm.
applications on top and sell it on. But what if that gets compromised?
Yep.
Then you're out of business. So we need different thinking, different mindset here, and being able to, what I believe, champion the cloud conversation on behalf
Mhm.
of the business. And this evolves into a role. We use a number of roles. There's 5 roles defined by NIST. It expands into 12 that we teach. One of them is the cloud broker role.
Okay.
And I'm adamant that for anyone in the ITSM space is to think about how your IT department or function, I always call it a function,
Mhm.
can and should take on the role of cloud broker.
Yeah.
You buy the IT function steps up, goes up the value chain,
Mhm.
big into value chains today, or go up that value ladder and say to the business, we will understand the cloud market on
Mhm.
behalf of the business. We will understand the contracts. We'll understand how clouds work together. We'll understand the benefits and the advantages and disadvantages. We'll help the business strategize
Mhm.
on all of this. And then we'll manage it on behalf of the business. We'll manage the cloud vendors, we'll manage the services. We're not managing incidents and problems per se
Mhm.
because we've outsourced a lot of that into cloud. That's fine. If you have infrastructure, you're not managing the incidents on that infrastructure. That's your cloud provider, but you
Mhm.
are managing the incidents around your what you interface, the contracts, the differences in all these nuances that come in, and you'd want that. Say, for example, um, the HR department wants a new HR system.
Mhm.
You don't want them to go out and just buy a HR system from a cloud provider. You want them to go through the IT function.
Yeah.
What's available? What's on offer? What are the differences? What's the due diligence? How does it work with our stuff? But it's so easy, and we're seeing this thing called disintermediation,
Mhm.
where like that a HR, I'll pick on HR for this. Don't know why. Where HR can just go to the cloud and just say, "Oh, we like that system. What do they
Yep.
need to buy that system? An ID,
Mhm.
password, credit card."
Yep.
You probably found that with your ticket system. There are the 3 things. You can be in that system in about 10 seconds.
Mhm.
That's called disintermediation. Then HR goes down to IT. We've just bought this cloud system. Looks great. Make it work with single sign-on and Active Directory and all the
Yep.
other things and all the billing and all this kind of stuff. And IT is just, well, we can't do that.
Mhm.
IT has become the department of no in that
Mhm.
space. No, can't do it, and off they go. Then you have what's called cloud sprawl. Multiple different clouds, multiple departments. Nobody knows what's going on. There's no control. There's no governance, and we're seeing this in report after report that that are coming out of different countries where the question is being asked to organizations: Are you satisfied with your adoption of cloud?
Mhm.
No, because we saw increased spend. That's number one. ITSM, IT people get control of that.
Yep.
Manage that, use that as an advantage. We had a lot of interface problems. Things didn't work together.
Mhm.
In the 90s, we had VM sprawl,
Yep.
which became very costly. Now we have cloud sprawl. It doesn't have to be. And this broker role is so fantastic to pull it all together. The other thing the broker role can do is to help businesses understand how they can use cloud
Mhm.
on behalf of their business to do more and better for their organization as well as a kind of intermediary. There's ways you can build on top of clouds as well to get into that. I call it the value zone.
Mhm.
Get into the value zone. So that's one of the roles that keeps coming up. Some of the issues from a report we look at RightScale. RightScale do a cloud report, which is quite good. Uh, Top issues: security, cyber. You know,
Okay. Yep.
Managing cloud spend is number 2.
Mhm.
I always say, IT departments understand how to manage cloud spend on behalf of the business, and you'll be very well thanked for that as well. Your value goes up. You're not managing
Yep.
instance here. You're managing the money. And in
Mm.
some cases, most organizations can't do chargeback of IT.
Mhm.
But you're going to need that for cloud
Yep.
because you can't run cloud off a budget. because cloud is dynamic, it's on demand, it's flexible. Rapid elasticity means anyone can increase the use of cloud. But if you have a fixed budget, that doesn't work because we now need flex budgets. And then if it's an IT budget that's paying for cloud, well, that's not, IT is just going to be seen as a big spend pit.
Yeah.
You want to charge the actual use back to the business. What they get out of it is the flexibility, reliability, the ability to scale up and down and increase and do all fabulous things. But you've got to articulate back the value of that as well. Lack of resources comes in at number 3. Partly technical resources, but that's less and less. It's more about the management. From this report that we see, it's the management of cloud. Big gaps there. Number 4, then, governance and control. So let's get on top of that. How do we understand what to do with governance and control? We have to understand the answer to the question, what is cloud with context? Because there's a gap here. There's no standard for cloud governance right now. It's not been invented. The technology always comes first and the standards come last.
We have to catch up afterwards.
We have to catch up. So there's a gap, huge gap for us to walk into. And again, it's to get our heads out of we can't just drop incidents and problems and the idle stuff that we've done. That still fits the technologies that it was designed for. There are some companies that have a lot of that, some companies that don't have any of that, and that's why they go straight into DevOps and Agile and this. But most organizations have a blend, what we call traditional IT, legacy IT, the older stuff, and now cloud and all this new digital. And we're going to have to blend all of these worlds together. So where ITIL fits traditional stuff, you still got to run that, but you've got to adapt now for this new digital and cloud domain, and again, the context that we spoke about today.
Yeah. So we're coming to the end of our time, that's just flown. And I think we could probably talk about this for 3 days quite genuinely.
Absolutely,
but we will publish a blog on ITSM Zone, and Mark's going to share some links with us where you can learn a little bit more. But kind of just to finish, Mark, on kind of a top tip. So for people who are service managers who've grown up in that ITIL world, maybe not too familiar with cloud, what should people be doing to make themselves a bit more future-proof?
First thing is, I always say this, you've got to understand the world has changed, the world that we've been involved in dramatically. The entire IT industry was changed by a bookstore back in 2006.
Yeah.
Amazon. A bookstore changed Microsoft. A bookstore changed Oracle. A bookstore changed everything we're doing. That's how dramatic this shift is. So first of all I won't say wake up to it, it's realize that things have significantly changed. And what we do has to significantly change as well.
Yeah.
First thing, and again, I do advocate this, regardless of whether I'm in a position at the CCC or not, is educate yourself.
Yeah.
And again, for ourselves, it's not so much in the technologies. The technologies are there. There's wonderful people learning, and they're in technology themselves. Look at the change that's happening, and look at what, again, the underlying for us in this conversation is cloud. There are other technologies, big data, IoT, blockchain. If they're relevant to your business, look at them, but not from a technology perspective, what we say from that vendor neutral perspective.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. Get educated. Don't get trained. Get educated wherever that is. That could be hopefully through CCC. There are lots of universities do courses on this, wherever that is. Second thing is do look at this broker role, cloud broker role, because that's expansive. And for me, that's the future of IT departments.
Yeah.
To start with. Now, whether that becomes cloud broker or digital broker, they're labels at the end of the day. But you're now going to be buying in services as opposed to creating the service and building the service. And you're managing them differently. So get educated, look at that role, and also get into strategy.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be complex. But if you understand cloud and the advantages and disadvantages, you can start to strategize, you can start advising. So it's enabling you to become that trusted advisor in the business to inform them. And sometimes bring in external advisors to inform yourself. But all this means move up the value chain. Move up that value ladder. So for far too often, the last 20, 30 years, IT has been down in the weeds, managing the incidents and problems. That's fine. That's what we've had to do. That was the model. Cloud is a different model. So back to the question, what is cloud? There's an answer in there. It is a model. It's a business model. It's a different model. It's a service model. And you've got to look at that and understand that. And then you've got to blend all of this in. If you're, I won't say unfortunately, if you're a company that has traditional IT and legacy IT, you've got to blend it all in. That's difficult. But if you understand the context behind this, that you can work that. If you're a new organization that is just cloud with no traditional or no legacy, find out how to use it advantageously for the business from a value perspective. Now, it's difficult. And even in the PCSM course, we teach value is difficult.
Yep.
And perceptions, and how do you define value? So we try and come at that without saying, here are 5 value KPIs. Here's the context for you to find out the value in your organization. And here's some recommendations that we give as well. So to give some kind of guidance there as well. So I think they're the key things, but in order to get those, a lot of context behind to make sense of. So hopefully we do play a part in that, and we continue to do so.
That's fabulous, and I think some really good advice there, and it links to me with some of the other sort of growth areas of service management. So the Verism approach talks a lot more about blending and working with different technologies and management practices, and the same with the material that's coming from the Business Relationship Management Institute, that shift from order taking up to a trusted partner and a strategic advisor. And, if you are in service management, that's exciting, because where's your career growth? There it is. You can move from in the weeds up to working at the strategic level, engaging with the C-level and talking to the business. So
absolutely. And it's not that difficult, because you'll be more informed than your business in this domain.
Yep.
And potentially, not to pick on the vendors, but probably the vendors as well, that you can see through the sales pitch, and you can see reality and make informed decisions.
Yep.
That's, I won't say power, that's the right result. So what we try and say at the CCC is that this, PCSM helps you do cloud right. The right thing in the right cloud for the right reason.
Yep.
And that gets you in that trusted advisor. And to me, that is the growth. When I looked at this back in 2011, I did look at how, for an ITSM person looking at cloud, what is that growth? What is that path? And that's why we structured the course with an ITSM frame in the cloud domain, and say this is the path that you should take, because it's aligned to value to the business, using your education and your skills. And ITSM folk, unfortunately, unless we take that jump, there is a move at the moment. I've seen it in the States. I've heard of it, that the ITSM community are being, I guess, unfairly picked on in some organizations, saying, let's remove those, put in DevOps, and let's see what happens. And I think we have to be able to answer the question, why are we still relevant? We're relevant because, and we've just covered a huge amount of that in our short time here, with context, having that context and the ability to bring that back to the business. How do we address the problems, control, spend, lack of governance, all this kind of stuff? How do we make sure that the business is agile, yet contains its cost? And the other thing, as I said, from a vendor neutral point of view, we will promote as well. We work alongside, say, DevOps, and Agile and Verism and whatever, ITIL, whatever comes out. What we teach doesn't compete with any of those. It complements. I guess the final thing is, recommendation is, we're going to have to be multi-skilled, which means multi-trainings. So PCSM, a DevOps, Verism, an ITIL, whatever. You're going to have to know a bit about a lot of these areas, rather than just the one area from the past, to make sense of it all. And to me, that's really exciting.
It is, and it's this shift towards the T-shaped professional and lifelong learning, which is the message I have been banging on about for some months now. But I'm going to have to stop us there, Mark, because we keep these to half an hour. But I will say thank you so much. That's been, again, an absolute education. I'm starting to feel like I'm little bit more educated in the cloud space, but a lot to do. But thank you so much. And as I said, we will put a blog live. We'll share that via social media, and Mark's going to give us some links where we can learn more. So thank you all for watching. Thank you, Mark, for being with us, and I will see you on the next episode of the ITSM Crowd.
Classic. Bye.